Hey everybody, Eric here with something new. Obviously, I read a lot, and every once in a while people ask me how many books I've read, and someone recently did that, and I can never give a complete answer. I don't know how many books I've read in my entire life, but I have kept a list of every book I've read since 1985. And so I thought it might be interesting, since I love to talk about books, to go through that list. And it is a long list. Right here, you'll see I have this 3-ring binder. That's just 1985 to 2004. And, excuse me, what I'm going to do, hopefully, is post one of these videos every week. I'm going to start the first week of January. Well, we'll see how it goes. I guess I missed the first full week of January. Well, it wasn't a full week. Whatever. We're going to start with January 1985. And then next week, I'm going to go with January 1986, then January 1987. Then when we get to February, we're going to go back to 85, and then February 86, February 87, etc., March, April, May. You get the idea. That's the plan anyway. I don't know what's going to happen. Now, a lot of these books, I don't even remember what they were about, so I've had to look some of them up. I'm not going to be able to tell you a lot about them, but a little behind the scenes here, I have this notebook, this little notebook here, and it's got, it's got some haikus that I've written. I've done some pop culture haikus and things. Those are in there. In the back, I list all my low-budget review show videos as I do them. I've got, for some of them, the date I recorded them. I put a little check mark next to it once I've uploaded it. So that's in the back. But I got all sorts of space here in the middle, and I've made some notes here. Just little things to remind me of what some of these books are. A lot of these books I got from the library, so I've never owned a copy. Some of them I have owned, but have since gotten rid of. So I don't have stuff. I don't have a lot of stuff to hold up and show you. And I'm not going to put pictures in for every book. You know, you can look them up. I'm not going to put any links. This is just something quick and fun, hopefully, that I'm going to do. If I do still have a copy of the book, I'll hold it up and show it to you. But I can tell you right now, I do not have any of the books that I read in January 1985, and that's where we're starting. All right, so the first book I read in January, I'm looking at my list here, and actually the page has come out. But the first book I read in January 1985 is Cruel Lie, A Caustic Yarn by Piers Anthony. This is the 8th book in Piers Anthony's Xanth series. And it's probably my favorite fantasy series if you've never read it. Xanth is a world shaped like Florida, where every single person has a magic talent. And they are mainly lighthearted fantasy. I mean, there are some deeper things. They're not always like super funny, but they are. I mean, it's not Lord of the Rings, so and it's full of puns. Things are very literal. Like a butterfly is literally a stick of butter with wings that'll fly by. Root beer is an alcoholic beverage you get from the root of a tree, certain trees. So this is the 8th book in the Xanth series, Cruel Lie, and that's Crewellye. And it is the story of Jordan the Ghost, who haunts Castle Rukna. When he was alive, he was betrayed and killed, and he is trying to discover what happened to him, and so he can reassemble his body. That's what it says on Amazon. Again, I don't remember this very well. I love the Xanth books, but there's a lot, and I don't remember all of them. I haven't even read all of them. I've probably at this point not even read half, since I lost track of them. But anyway, That's the first book of January 1985, Cruel Lie, a Caustic Yarn by Pierce Anthony. Number 2, The Evil That Men Do by R. Lance Hill. This is another one that I had to look up. And it is the story basically of a woman who teams up with an assassin to go after this guy called the Doctor, who was an expert in torture and killed the woman's husband and father? Something. Killed somebody important to her, so she teams up with this assassin to find this guy. It was made into a movie starring Charles Bronson, and I don't even remember if I saw the movie first and decided to read the book, or if I read the book and then decided to see the movie. And I'm sorry, I'm getting a little parched, so you're going to have to watch me take a drink of my Mountain Dew. Mountain Dew, when you're feeling parched. That's better. So The Evil That Men Do. I seem to remember it was okay. I mean, not so mind-blowing that I obviously could remember what it was, because I did have to look it up. Third, we have The Vengeance by Robert C. Sloan. Another one I had to look up. I had no idea what this was, and I was actually surprised when I read the little one-line synopsis on Amazon, because it was not at all what I expected. And essentially, some trolls, and remember, this is 1985, so we're not talking about internet trolls, we're talking about trolls. Some trolls are killed, and so some other trolls go after the human family to get their revenge. So trolls want revenge on the humans that killed some other trolls. That's it. Again, I probably enjoyed it, I would think. I don't have bad memories of it. I think there are going to be books that either like really stick out in my mind because they're really good. There are going to be some that stick out because they're really bad. And then you're going to have a lot of this middle ground of things that I don't even remember. But the rest of these are, I think, bigger names, definitely. So, and there are 8 total. We're on number 4. Number 4 is Coma by Robin Cook. I would say probably his biggest, most well-known book. It's a medical thriller. It was made into a movie. It was enjoyable. I think I've read some other Robert Cook. We'll find out as we go through this list. I'm going to run into things I don't even remember reading, obviously. But I mean, really don't remember. I think there's probably more Robin Cook on here, but it's a fine book. I definitely remember reading it. I remember enjoying it for what it is. In medical thrillers, I can take them or leave them. You're going to learn here that I do have eclectic tastes, and I try out a lot of different things. I would recommend Coma. Definitely a good book. I seem to remember enjoying the movie as well. And it's just one of those things, people disappearing, people start investigating, find out that there's some craziness going on with coma victims. Number 5 is Floating Dragon by Peter Straub. And you know what? I should have looked this one up, and I didn't. I did not make any notes on this because, excuse me, I do not remember anything about this book except that it was good. I know it was good. I know it was creepy. I have not read a lot of Peter Straub, but what I have read I enjoyed. But I couldn't tell you what the story was. So there's that. And I didn't write down any notes. So, but Floating Dragon, it's Peter Straub. Check it out. Look it up. 6 is Solomon Kane by Robert E. Howard. This was a collection. I would assume this was a collection of all of the Solomon Kane stories by Robert E. Howard. For those of you who don't know, Robert E. Howard created Conan the Barbarian, his most famous creation. He's had plenty of others. There was Kull, which was, obviously Conan's been made into movies, TV show, all sorts of stuff. Kull was made into a movie with the guy that played Hercules, whose name I can't remember right at this moment. But that was an entertaining movie. And he's had some others, Bran McMorn. He's written westerns, but Solomon Kane is absolutely my favorite Robert E. Howard character. He is a Puritan who fights the supernatural. He sort of travels around, gets caught up in these things, and I love the look of the character with the long coat, and he's got flintlock pistols and a rapier and the big giant hat, and he's got a great look. He's a very dour character, which I like for some reason. Absolutely love the Solomon Kane stories, and there you can find them. There are many editions that have there are partial stories. There's a sort of an epic poem about Solomon Kane, and then a bunch of short stories. I don't even know if anything was novella length. I don't know that anything was even that long enough to be called a novella. And there are collections that just have some of the stuff, but you can find collections that has everything, all the Solomon Kane stuff. Solomon Kane's been made into a movie with James Purefoy. I enjoyed it. It was a fun movie. Love James Purefoy. Check him out on Hap and Leonard. Great show. But that's Solomon Kane, Robert E. Howard. Number 7. Not sure if anybody's heard of this one. It's called The Godfather. It's by Mario Puzo. I think maybe it was made into a movie. So yeah, The Godfather. I'll admit right now, I'm not a huge fan of the movie. It's an amazing movie. I cannot deny that. It's just not my type of movie. So that's why I'm not a fan. I've seen it. I can appreciate it for what it is, and that it is an amazing piece of cinema. Just not my thing. It's not something I'm going to watch over and over again. But there was a point where I decided to try out some Mario Puzo, and so I read the book, The Godfather, and it is an amazing book. Now, because this list starts in 1985, I know there's other Mario Puzo I've read. I can't remember if The Godfather was the first book by him that I read. We may find out as we go through this list together. But it's what do I need to tell you about The Godfather? Nothing. It's The Godfather. Everybody knows The Godfather. And then finally, the last book that I read in January of 1985 was The Choir Boys by Joseph Wambaugh. It is... again, another book that was made into a movie. I definitely saw the movie first. My father was a cop. He was a big fan of this movie. He actually had a Choir Boys belt buckle. And I don't know that he ever read the book, so I can't say whether or not he was a fan of that. I know he loved the movie. I know I watched it. I think I was probably too young when I watched it, because there is a particular scene towards the end of the movie, as I recall, that was very traumatizing. For not literally, metaphorically traumatized. It freaked me out when I was a kid. But I had to read the book after having seen the movie. And again, I would say this is definitely the first Joseph Wambaugh I read. I think there are probably some others on this list. We'll see. But again, The Choir Boys. Definitely, if you are interested in cops, like realistic, dirty laundry stories about police, and I think it's New York. I'm not going to say for sure. It's definitely a big city police force. I think Joseph Wambaugh was one of those guys that was a cop before he became a writer, and this is sort of, it may be exaggerated. I can't say if anything from the book came from his personal experiences, but it does have that gritty, realistic, these are cops, good and bad. This is how they behave. This is what they do on the job. This is what they do off duty. This is what real cops are, at least back in probably the 70s when the book was written. I don't know. I didn't check the copyright. But that's The Choir Boys by Joseph Wambaugh. So there you have it, the 8 books that I read in January 1985. As I go through this list, especially as we get closer to the present day. I will remember more about some of these things. And I'll tell you right now, there are going to be books that appear multiple times on this list. There are plenty of books that I've read over and over again, and I write them down every time that I read them. There are two anomalies, at least two that come to mind, two anomalies on this list. I'll point them out when I get to them. It's going to be a long while, I think, before I get to them. We'll see. And that's assuming that I keep this going. But there you have it. The 8 books I read in January 1985. You know, there is a comment section below this video, so feel free. Let me know if this type of video interests you at all. If you were around back in 85, talk about what you read back in the day. If you've read any of these, let me know. If you remember any of these, let me know what your thoughts are. If I'm completely off base on what I remember or didn't remember and had to write down notes for, just let's talk in the comments below. I like talking about books, obviously. I mean, that's the whole basis of my YouTube channel. So there you have. I don't know what I'm going to call these videos. There's not going to be any fancy, even my cheap, low-budget fancy production. It's just going to be a straightforward video, no logos, no anything, just me sitting here reading from my 3-ring binder, and then eventually we'll get to the spiral notebook if I keep going with this. All right, let me know what you think. Let's talk books. That's it, and I'll see you next time.